Welcome to another edition of Wealthy and Wise. I am your host, Adam Kente, Executive Corporate Analyst here with NCH. And today I have a very, very special guest. We have with us Jamie Jones from our credit department, who is an absolute expert on everything business credit. And I thought it'd be fun and kind of go through with us all of the little nuances, the things that people don't know when they start trying to build business credit, and how these little mistakes get really costly when people don't do things the right way. So Jamie, your background, tell us just a little bit about your time here with NCH, kind of what you do on a daily basis.
Well, I have been here for 10 years, and I've worked in the credit department the whole time. So I've had a lot of experience finding out particular vendors to use so that we know that when you make a purchase, it's not in vain. That transaction will show up in your credit reports. And then I've just kind of learned everything that the credit bureaus look for. Dun & Bradstreet, Experian Business. You want to make sure that you have certain things in place, otherwise they could flag your business out of business. So I've just learned all the ins and outs of business credit so we can make sure that when you start working with us, you'll get business credit very quickly without wasting time and money.
That's excellent. So the first thing, when most people are starting out, we think that credit is something that as a consumer, we do nothing. All of a sudden, we use credit, and all of a sudden, before we know it, we have a FICO score. Well, business credit is not like that. We have to actually register with the business credit bureaus, and the main ones being, you said, Dun & Bradstreet and Experian Business. And then we actually have to use the credit, and we have to hope that we're working with a company that will report positive information. So how many vendors are there in the U.S. today that will work with businesses on credit, and how many of those vendors, or what percentage, actually report to the credit bureaus?
Sure.
In your experience.
So we know that there's roughly 600,000 companies that actually offer goods, services. They give credit to businesses as a way to help the business owner maximize their cash flow. Now, of those 600,000, we also know that 1% of them report positive activity to the business credit bureaus. Therefore, we have done a lot of research. We've found hundreds of vendors that we know not only will give you credit, but will also report your positive payment. That way, you're not wasting time using vendors that maybe you need, but they just don't report the activity to the credit bureaus.
And that's so incredible to think that as a consumer, everybody reports. It's a federal law. We have the Consumer Protection Act that makes sure that people report positive information to the big credit bureaus. But as a business, none of that's automatic. So I know that in working with my clients over the years, that our first step is in registering with Dun & Bradstreet. They give everybody a DUNS number for free. And then they start calling you, trying to charge you, was it $3,500 for them to help you build credit. And I've had a lot of people do this over the years. What really happens when they invest that money with Dun & Bradstreet or one of the bigger business credit bureaus? What, in your experience, what really happens after they invest that money?
Essentially, you're just paying for access because, as you said, with personal credit, there are laws that regulate personal credit. So as long as you just use credit cards, or you get a car loan, or you pay your student loans on time, by law, those companies must report that positive activity to give you a really strong FICO score. In business credit, there's no federal regulation. Therefore, the business credit bureaus aren't obligated to give you access to your credit report. You don't get free credit reports. So I know that we pay to have access on behalf of our clients. But yeah, if you were to pay Dun & Bradstreet $3,500, then you get a year where you could just go to their website and look at your credit report. So you can see when things get added, but it doesn't really help guide you. It doesn't let you know what you need to do to be in compliance, or it doesn't let you know what you need to do, which vendors actually report the activity. So
a couple things that I know are so important. When we do the registration with Dun & Bradstreet, they're actually going to check to see that we are a real business. Yes. So they want to make sure that we have some key components. And can you walk us through that compliance checklist? Before we do anything, what do you always make sure of that our clients have in order to make sure that they are in fact compliant with Dun & Bradstreet?
Sure, very simple. I mean, obviously you want to have a business, so the Dun & Bradstreet will check the Secretary of State just to make sure you have an active charter. Also, Dun & Bradstreet has been around since the 1800s, so they believe that an active operating business has a phone number that is listed on 411 directory assistance.
All right, so hang on for 1 second. So when you say 411 directory assistance, so for some of our viewers, 411 directory assistance, it used to be back in the day we had phone books that came out 2 times a year. We want to find a business, we go to the yellow pages, look up the phone book, and then we got Google, and everybody stopped using phone books. So now 411 used to be, if I wanted to find a business, I would pick up my phone, I would dial 411 and ask for the local Pizza Hut store so I can get their number and call and order pizza. Now we have Google, and hardly anybody uses 411, but you're telling me that Dun & Bradstreet still requires that your business is listed with Business Directory Assistance, the old 411?
They do. So if they can't get a hold of you, they'll call 411. And if the operator on 411 does not have the listing, then they won't create your credit profile. We find it in the notes when we launch our investigation. Dun & Bradstreet says, we checked 411 and the phone number was not listed. So we make sure that everyone knows all the compliant phone companies they can go through. We let you know exactly how to set up the business phone, and we definitely let you know how to get it listed on 411. That way, if Dun & Bradstreet calls, you're busy because you own a business, then you don't have to answer the call. They can call 411 and then they can get it confirmed that way.
So 411, they won't list a home phone, they won't list a cell phone, they won't list a Google Voice number. So oftentimes it's either a landline or using certain voice over IP services. So phone number, what else?
Sure. We want to make sure you have your EIN, obviously. It's really important to go out and open a business bank account. That way you can pay vendors from that business bank account. So everything just looks legitimate.
And how about the address?
Oh, yes. You want to make sure you have a physical address. So normally we recommend, if you don't run a commercial location, like you don't own a restaurant that actually has its own physical location, you can absolutely use your home address as the business address. You can use a virtual office. You just have to make sure you have a unique suite number. That way it's the only address for your business.
So oftentimes I have a lot of clients that will not want to put their home address on public record. So they want to get a UPS store that gives you a physical address, but those oftentimes don't work because there's hundreds of businesses using that exact same address.
Exactly. Everyone has the same address. So as long as you get an actual virtual office where they can give you your own unique suite, then it identifies as the only business there is your business.
That's awesome. And are there any names that, because I've heard that there are certain words that you put in your company name that don't get very good results when you start building business credit and trying to get business loans. So is that true?
The only word you want to stay away from is investment. And it's simply because an investment is a risk. There's no guarantee you're going to get a return on your investment. Lenders don't like to give loans to investors. So even if you own a business that does investments, just don't put investment in your name.
So avoid that. And aside from that, we're pretty wide open for the naming of the company. So we got the right phone number that is listed with directory assistance. We have a unique address. Now we're ready to go out and start acquiring credit cards for the business. And what are some of the huge mistakes that people make when they're just getting started building business credit and they're trying to establish the profile and get companies that will report to Dun & Bradstreet and Experian Business? What are some of the big mistakes people make?
Really just the biggest mistake is not knowing where to start. The best part about our program is we have a 4-tiered process. Everyone is familiar with Home Depot, Sam's Club, Staples, these huge corporations. They will of course give you credit and report your payment to the credit bureaus. But if you don't have established business credit, they have no choice but to run your social and put a hard inquiry on your personal credit. And you have to personally guarantee that account. And we want to really keep things separate. So our biggest asset is that we have a 4-tiered process. So when you get registered with Dun & Bradstreet, you meet all the compliance requirements, we get you that credit profile, we can take you through the different tiers. So we use our tier 1 vendors first, they automatically give you credit, then they report your payment, that gets you that 80 A+ credit score. Then we can help you pick out vendors from tier 2 and tier 3 so that you can have that history. So larger corporations will actually give you credit based on your business liability alone.
So if I'm just starting and I skip right to applying for a Home Depot card, what do we end up with?
You get a personally guaranteed account, which isn't a bad thing, but it's much better if you can wait a little bit and establish that history. Then you know that it's just your business. It has no impact on your personal credit, and you can keep your personal credit strong for when you need to get a new car for your personal use, or you need to refinance your mortgage.
So it's a really important part. So as consumers, we know that personal credit goes from 350 to 850. If you have an 850, your credit score is amazing. If you have a 350, boy, did you mess things up. With a business, what does that scoring system look like?
It is on a scale of 0 to 100. So both Dun & Bradstreet and Experian Business are going to rate you 0 to 100. Now, Dun & Bradstreet, really the only thing that impacts your score is whether or not you pay your bills on time, which is great. As a business owner, you're going to need to open up multiple accounts at once. So hard inquiries have no impact on the paydex score. You also may need to use your credit. So if you do end up getting that $2,500 credit card from Lowe's in the future, if you have to max that out for the business and just make minimum payments, that doesn't impact your paydex score. So as long as you're always paying your bills within your terms, you're paying on time, the paydex score is an 80. And that's just like having an 800 FICO score.
That's amazing credit. So we were talking earlier, so I remember last week I always ask you, I bug you all the time. Jamie is my local expert, so I'm always bugging her about addresses and various things that for our clients. And I remember we looked at a lady's score, and her score was, I think, was it 65? And she was unaware, but what were the negative things that were showing up? Do you remember?
Essentially, it's just paying late. So in business credit, there's no grace period. We get very spoiled. In personal credit, there's a lot of leniency. You know, you're running a little bit behind. You need to wait until you get a paycheck. You can actually make a credit card payment late 15 days, 29 days. But as long as you make that credit card payment before the 30-day grace period, by law, the credit card company can't report that late payment to the credit bureau. So it's not going to have a negative impact on you, other than the fact they may charge a late fee. They can increase your APR for paying late, but they can't actually report you to the credit bureaus until you're 30 days past due. Business credit, 1 day late, shows up. Now, it'll have less of an impact on your score if you're 1 day late versus 30 days late. So if you pay your bills 2 days late, you'll have a paydex score of 78 versus 80. But if you have a 15-day late or a 30-day late, that's when your score drops into the 60s and the 50s. And then Dun & Bradstreet flags you as a moderate high-risk business because you're not quite paying your bills within terms.
So when the bill comes, I know we were talking about it has to be paid. You don't pay it right away. You pay it if it's due on the 15th of the month. I get the bill on the 1st, it's due on the 15th. What would be that time frame of the right time to pay it?
Well, you should contact them and you should pay it. Usually we recommend about 10 days before it's due. That way, if you call them physically and they can deduct the payment right away, that's great. If you need to mail them a business check, you've got 10 days for it to get to them on time.
So don't pay them right away. You were saying that if we paid a bill that comes in, I pay it the day I get it. That's not good.
Well, it it shows up as a cash transaction. And of course, a cash trade line is much better than a late payment. But Dun & Bradstreet has various metrics. They'll measure your risk level, whether or not they think you're going to go out of business in a certain amount of time. So what's nice is if you have trade lines, your metrics are higher. So we don't want to pay the bill right away. We don't want to get a cash transaction, but we do want to make sure it's paid before the due date.
That is an excellent point. It's a great thing to know as we're building the credit. There's all these little nuances, what to pay, when to pay it, who to work with, when to work with them, all of those things that come along with owning a business. And one more thing we have to do. What is the one thing that you enjoy most about working with our clients at NCH?
Well, the best part is just knowing that we can really guide them. We can help them achieve that score very quickly. We can help them build their credit really quickly without them wasting a lot of time and energy. We're here to guide them step by step. So we make sure they understand the compliance requirements. We help them get their business into compliance with Dun & Bradstreet, Experian Business. We register them with the credit bureaus, and then we just guide them through our 4-tiered process. That way, as long as they follow the steps, we have exact instructions. We know that that activity will get reported. They won't have issues with late payments. Once they achieve that 80 PAYDEX score, they'll know how to maintain it for the duration of their business.
Well,
so it's just knowing that, we can really help them achieve what they want to achieve in a very short amount of time without wasting a lot of money.
well, that's fantastic. So I so appreciate Jamie taking time out of her day today to be with us. Jamie is an absolute expert. I think she works with just about all of our clients at NCH. If you are working in our credit program, you've always talked to Jamie. She's so helpful, such an expert at this. But I appreciate you taking time out of your day. We hope that you implement some of these things. Contact NCH, get some help from an expert, and make sure you're doing things the right way. I think Jamie said that if you screw up business credit, it can be 3 years before it's fixed, right?
Oh yeah, once you have a late payment, it's like personal credit, it can be there for 2 years. So it can haunt you for 2 years until that trade just falls off. So
contact NCH, let us help you. Have a great rest of your day.